Hello, my monstrosities. Hello once again. Today I bring to you a unit that we haven't seen maybe anybody bring out all edition, and how it has opened my mind to a possibility nobody's discussing, and it showed me my own flaw where I should have done my due diligence. So, the Psychomancer is a character, it is an infantry, it is Cryptek. And what it does is Nightmare Shroud in the Battle Shock step of your opponent's command phase. If an enemy unit is below starting strength and within 6 inches of this model, it must take a Battle Shock test at -1. It's Death Leaper. And with Harbinger of Despair, once per turn at the start of your command, movement, shooting, charge, or fight phase, you can select one enemy unit within 18 inches of this model. That unit must take a Battle Shock test, also at -1. It is a better Neurolictor. Well, from that front, it doesn't give a debuff if they are battle shocked. But where am I going with this? Besides my jealousy as Tyrion is first, but I do like Necron second, so, not too upset, right? Where am I going with this? This is a unit that nobody's taken, really. And I think a bit of my morbid humor uh, maybe gave me an idea into which the Psychomancer might finally be useful. And one of the most useful things it could do is no longer be around. You see, for 55 points, which is 5 points cheaper than a Lictor, a character that has free rapid ingress and is a lone up to score you points. But also, my love of the Ripper Swarm, especially in Assimilation Swarm, that isn't a lone up, but you have to address it, or else you lose. The Ripper Swarm will heal in Assimilation Swarm, and if you get rid of it, that's a mistake. The Psychomancer is cheaper than a Lictor, doesn't have lone up, but you could create the same lose-lose situation for your opponent as you can a Ripper Swarm. Why is that? Well, if it stays on the board, however it gets there, right? Maybe it comes on from the board edge. Maybe you actually walk it up. They have to deal with Death Leaper backslash Neurolictor ability. And if they get rid of it, well, they have to deal with the same issue as if they get rid of a Ripper Swarm and Broodguard Impulse. Sorry, an Assimilation Swarm with Broodguard Impulse. In Canoptek Court, there's Curse of the Cryptek. Your opponent's shooting or the fight phase just after an enemy unit has shot or fought one Cryptek model from your army that was destroyed. Psychomancer is a Cryptek. You can use this stratagem on that model even though it was just destroyed. Until the end of the battle, each time a friendly Canoptek model makes an attack that targets the attacking unit, add 1 to the hit roll and add 1 to the wound roll. So, if they pop your Psychomancer, that cost you 55 points, your Canoptek models get +1 to hit and +1 to wound versus it. That means that your brick of Canoptek Wraiths that were usually just nothing more than tough body, +1 to hit, +1 to wound. That means your Doomstalker, that is a pretty good gun, +1 to hit, +1 to wound. But why would I be playing, Canoptek Court? So, I have to admit, this comes off of the back of an Art of War live stream into which somebody had asked the question of what's the best Necrons detachment. And I've also made a video talking about, well, now that Star Shatter got exposed as a cough cough resident Star Shatter hater, I guess. After day one, right? After day one, I was like, this shit is not nearly as broken as everybody's trying to make it out to be. Just watch. After that, it got exposed. Everybody's like, so what do we do? What's the Necron things? And to which Jack said my previous answer of Hypercrypt Legion. And Richard Siegler didn't agree that Hypercrypt is that good. And I was like, what is Siegler talking about? That is an insane take. However, my bias is that for the entirety of the Necrons Codex, I have been a believer of Hypercrypt Legion. But when I last made a Canoptek Court video, I noted that every time one of the two gets hit, we flip to the other. Canoptek Court gets hit, we go to Hypercrypt Legion. Hypercrypt Legion gets hit, we go to Canoptek Court. Well, now it's happened again. They hit Star Shatter, so you go to Hypercrypt, but they also hit Hypercrypt. Let's look at Canoptek Court again. But why now? Why not another time? So, what does it do that the others don't do? Well, with Hypercrypt, you look at the stratagems, you look at the detachment rule, and it is all about movement. For the most part, moving, a little bit better defenses, but you are moving. And if you are moving less, that's okay. But it's not as good as it was, and sometimes not as good as it was means that it's just okay. In Star Shatter, if your opponent goes, hey, I've learned my lesson, I'm not going to touch that objective until I get rid of the DDA first, there goes your game plan for the most part. So with Canoptek Court, your Cryptek and Canoptek units get reroll hit rolls of 1, and if they are wholly within your army's power matrix, you get the entire hit roll instead. This also comes off of the back of my reevaluating detachments like this video, that I think in that video I say something along the lines of, I should look into that. And after looking into it, yeah, I think Canoptek Court is back on the menu, everybody. So, right now we're seeing people take a lot of heavy vehicle spam or a lot of infantry. And we see that infantry that can reroll hits is pretty good with Bridgehead Strike. Now, mind you, it's not topping to the same extent that you would expect Star Shatter to if you believed all the hype. But that style of list is very prevalent between that and Space Marines right now. Infantry that can reroll, be it Creations of Bile, be it Space Marines doing shenanigans with their oath, Bridgehead, rerolling infantry is good. But why do I say infantry? Well, for a minute I've held the opinion that this should be the quote-unquote Silver Tide detachment. You have Mancers that want to attach to things. They attach to your battle line. Illuminor Ceres affects your battle line. When you look at that, you should be bringing battle line. And then you back that up with maybe some quote-unquote elites such as the Wraiths and some big guns such as Doomstalkers. Yeah, I think you have a game plan. Now, you would say that, well, in Star Shatter, you still get the option of double Silent King, essentially, or Silent King ignoring mods and Silent King aura. But if everywhere you go is the Silent King aura because you're rerolling hit rolls of 1 because you're using a Cryptek unit, and if you bring Immortals that reroll wounds, yeah, I don't think you need the Silent King aura for that aspect. And if you use the Silent King still, you have ignore mods. And then rerolls. Yeah, it's looking a little bit better. And now you can't compare lethality to movement in Hypercrypt, but I think you start to look and go, the things in Canoptek Court give me value that might cover for the maneuverability if the maneuverability can't kill, right? And then we will go to the stratagems in a second to talk about another thing that Canoptek Court kind of saves your ass for. We look at the enhancements. You have a Cryptek model only. Models in the Bears unit have the Infiltrator's ability for 20 points. Going back to our friend the Psychomancer, if you throw that on the Psychomancer and maybe take some Necron warriors, we'll pull that one up here, even though, well, spoiler alert, we will be talking about it again. 20 bodies. Now this is 200, 255, 275 points. But for 275 points, you get an infiltrating screen of 21 models that will reanimate, that are T4, putting out an aura of you better not be below starting strength, and even if you are at starting strength, I will battle shock you, that they have to get through, and you can re-roll the reanimation protocols. And if there's a funky little, well, maybe a Canoptek unit that makes the reanimation better, because we're playing Canoptek Court, and they FAQ to say that this gets affected by the reanimator, so that you get an additional D3 wounds. Yeah, that's another 75 points, but that's annoying as all fucking hell. That's just one thing that I'm looking at Canoptek Court a little bit differently. You take Hyperphasic Fulcrum for 15 points. You can, but you realize you don't have to if everything outside of the Warriors is Immortals, right? They already have that. Auto Divinator is another thing that I've kind of shit on in the past because we weren't seeing too many people bring the units that are giving you CP. But now we are, so that gets better. For 15 points, bring the Archons, the upcoming... Sorry, not Archons. Do Archons give points? Something. But the upcoming Elf Codex with Eldrad giving command points. You got ways to get command points in a lot of things now. So for 15 points, instead of having to take Imatek, or if Imatek's already gone because you did bring him, and he was attached to a Cryptek unit and so on and so forth, yeah, you get to roll a d6 when your opponent does it, and on a 2-up you get a CP. And to the other point of leaders really quickly, you were bringing a spider, or thinking about it, to put in Star Shatter Arsenal to make the Silent King better. So if your Canoptek unit of the spiders also is better here, I'm just saying it might not be as bad of an idea to still bring the Silent King if you want that ignore mods while we're taking rerolls, and a couple other things down the line. This last one we don't really have to talk about. For 10 points, if you get charged, you can roll a d6, 2 up, do some mortal wounds. It's not terrible, but for 10 points, it's not that bad. Enter Curse of the Cryptek. Your opponent's shooting phase or the fight phase just after an enemy unit has shot or fought one Cryptek model from your army that was destroyed by one of the attacking unit's attack. You can use the stratagem on that model even though it was just destroyed. Until the end of the battle, each time a friendly Canoptek model makes an attack that targets the attacking unit, add 1 to the hit roll and add 1 to the wound roll. I really like this style of stratagem in Assimilation Swarm with Ripper Swarms. If you pop my Ripper Swarm, I get to make it so that I pop you. If you don't, my Ripper Swarm, cough cough, is a Harvester that will heal my other shit. I win no matter what happens. So what could be a unit that could give me that same leverage and a similar detachment? Well, formerly similar detachment. Now that things have been changed for Assimilation Swarm, not 1 for 1, but the stratagem still stands. The Psychomancer, for 55 points, you get rid of it, I get rid of you. And if you let it stay, I don't know how you feel about a 1.5-foot chance to take a battle shock test at -1. At whatever phase I want. Of my turn, right? At my phase, right? Or an aura, into which you better hope that you're not below starting strength. And this isn't an epic hero. I can put on enhancements, right? As we already talked about. Or I could not. 55 points each. Couple of Death Leaper auras. Yeah, I gotta walk them there. But what if they are attached to some shit that I don't give that much of a fuck about, and they're going within, oh, I don't know, the one thing that nobody has also played with this entire edition, maybe a Ghost Arc. I'm just saying, it has an option. And then, once again, boost the reanimation protocols from that aspect too. But moving past that, reactive subroutines. We all know that reactive moves for 1 CP? Pretty decent. So, take that. Cynosure of Eradication, the thing that got nerfed that made all of us stop looking at Canoptek Court. Not the biggest thing to write home about for 2 CP, but if you have 2 CP, giving a Doomstalker devastating wounds doesn't sound too bad. Now here comes my bigger one, right? Counter temporal shift. Your opponent's shooting phase just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. One Canoptek unit from your army that was selected as the target of one or more of the attacking unit's attacks. Until the end of the phase, your unit can only be selected as the target of a ranged attack if the attacking model is within 18 inches. So, we saw this formally at 12 inches for Canoptek Wraiths, right? But what if you keep this on a Doomstalker that has a 48-inch gun, and if you come within anti-lone op range, basically, it has the unique ability of when you use Fire Overwatch on it, you get to score on 5s. And since you are playing Canoptek Court, you get reroll hit rolls of 1. And if this happens to be while still within your deployment zone, or you have taken enough of the board to get your power matrix in no man's land, reroll the entire hits. Yeah, that seems like a scary combination. Yes, it's 2 CP, but yeah, I think that's 2 CP worth it. Solar Pulse, here comes my other one as to what happens if you just let Psychomancers go up the field. Start of your shooting phase. One Cryptek model from your army. Select one objective marker. Oh, that thing that everybody likes in Star Shatter. Within 18 inches of your Cryptek model. Within a foot and a half. Until the end of the phase, weapons equipped by friendly Necron models have the Ignores Cover ability while targeting units within range of that objective marker. So, a few things here about Solar Pulse. Ignore Cover? Pretty good. We like it when it's on one unit. Stripping Cover? Also pretty good. Now, it is tied to an objective marker, so there's your downside. But for my 55-point unit to come onto the board edge, choose an objective marker within a foot and a half at the start of my shooting phase, anything that's touching it is essentially +1 AP, right? Cover be damned. And it's my friendly Necrons models. That means my Transcendent Catan that advanced and got the angle ignores cover. That means my Locust Heavy Destroyer that might be in range ignores cover. +1 AP on those, pretty good, right? We're treating ignores cover as +1 AP. And, of course, steal your Doomstalker, ignores cover, pretty good. And then suboptimal facade, another thing that we've seen come in handy versus Wraiths, or on Wraiths. Your opponent's charge phase just after an enemy unit has declared a charge. One Canoptek unit from your army that was selected as a target of the charge and wholly within your army's power matrix, your reanimation protocols activate. So, we've seen this be good on Wraiths when you have taken enough of midfield and so on and so forth. However, once again, we have a gun for the Doomstalker that is 48 inches long. You loan up, alright? They are still coming, or they want it to come. Overwatch, they didn't come. Loan up, And if they're coming, heal yourself. It seems like we have a lot more play than we did for Doomsday Arts and Star Shatter. And I only say that because I'd rather not be able to be hit than being -1 to wound, if the strength is greater than my toughness. How about not getting hit at all? And if you try to hit me, I shoot the fuck out of you. And if you do get to charging me, instead of just being dead in the water, it's going to take you a little bit longer because I activated my reanimation protocols. And because we had that FAQ, this will apply to boop boop boo, the Canoptek Reanimator, because it triggers whenever reanimation protocols is triggered. So 2d3 when you want to charge me. So Canoptek Court looking pretty okay. You have expendable infantry to combat a lot of people's infantry, right? And you have a vehicle with a pretty good gun that has things in a support system that's pretty good too. We look at the Chronomancer, and this is another one that maybe you want to attach this to the Necron Warriors, because then it becomes -1 to hit, and after you shoot, you get to scoot. And thinking about how annoying that is from gargoyles, that can be a motherfucker to get through. -1 to hit on top of that with an enhancement in Warrior Bioform Onslaught. So with the Chronomancer marching up with maybe Immortals, maybe Necron Warriors, yeah, we're looking at some decent amount of, good luck on that save. Then you go on to Orican the Diviner, who, I don't know if you want to sacrifice, but a 4-up invuln save? Yeah, that could be another layer of being fucking annoying. And going back to this idea, the Ghost Arcs are looking a little bit more appealing the more I go on with this in my head. You put Mancers, and you put Warriors, and you go up, see what happens to them, but they've blocked shit. That's Orican. You have Necron Warriors once again. We've gone through. Maybe you just do that. Technomancer giving things 5 of Feel No Pain, but if you're playing Technomancer and you're playing Canoptek Court, you're probably putting them on Canoptek Rape. So who am I kidding to say that you're doing anything else? Illuminor Ceres buffs battle line, is a lone up when next to Necron units, is a Cryptek. Yeah, it sounds like you want to bring battle line in Canoptek Court. This is the missing piece, more or less. Then we go to the Immortals, who give you reroll wound rolls of 1, attached to a Cryptek, reroll hit rolls of 1. If they're on the objective marker, reroll the entire wound. If you are within your power matrix, reroll the entire hit. So you could have possibly reroll the entire hit, reroll the entire wound. And let's just say we did Solar Pulse, that -1 AP on the Gauss Blaster is sticking. Lethal hits. Silent King talked about how maybe you want to double down on reroll hit rolls and reroll wound rolls of 1 in another location. But what if we just go ahead and ignore mods? 6 inches out, 420 points. We've made it work in other detachments. I think this is fine now. Especially when spiders and reanimators are a little bit better in here. Yeah, sounds good enough. And finally, the Canoptek Doomstalker I've talked about enough, but just to see the profile, 48 inches, D6 plus 1 attacks hidden on 4s, with Blast Heavy, Strength 14, AP 3, Damage 3. So while it's not AP 4, Damage 4, this shit hurts for 145 points. Each time you target this unit with Fire Overwatch, resolve those hits on 5-ups. I'm just saying, it looks very fucking playable right now. They don't have the same issue as having like no maneuverability as a DDA. Much easier to move them around. You can loan up these instead of just being -1 to wound. I've already talked about how the Canoptek Doomstalker is probably the ace in the hole for this one. Compared to when we were doing the Wraiths, and we were like, what if I just make it really hard on the Wraiths, right? Maybe 1 or 2 unit of Wraiths. But going to Canoptek Doomstalker and Immortals with Illuminor Ceres, I think there's more play on that one than anything else. So yeah, all stemming from the Psychomancer being something that could be disposable. So, if you like the video, like it. Got a comment from me, comment. And until next time, peace out, my monstrosities.